Ignite to impact.
So, do you sometimes struggle with saying no because you're not sure how to say it with clarity and confidence and still not be aggressive or rude? Today's conversation, I'm going to help you learn how to say no with a smile and have people love you for it. I'm Dr. Geneva. Welcome to this conversation. I'm a vibrant life coach and business strategist, helping executives and entrepreneurs navigate uncertainty in your life and in your business so that you can get more success, income, and happiness. And you can work with me either coaching or consulting with you and your organization, or even better, by joining my weekly newsletter with lots of good and sound wisdom from my 40 plus years of experience in running businesses and being out there and giving some good advice, like what we're going to talk about today. So I want to first send a shout out to Kimberly Hill Knott, because Kimberly was the one who suggested this topic. And so we were talking about work-life balance, and I was putting out there my belief that work-life balance isn't the real problem. The issue is setting boundaries and knowing when to say yes and how to say no. And so, because of that, Kimberly said, well, how do you say no? So that's why I said, well, I've had some practice with this. So let me come on and drop some wisdom on you on how to say no. And so I got to tell you, I used to find it very difficult to say no. So that's the real deal. I don't know if it was because growing up, my parents, particularly my mom, used to always want me to be kind and polite and have manners. And that might be like most people. And you were always taught to, well, I was always taught to play nice and be nice and say nice things and be kind to people. And so I really found myself perhaps, when I really thought about it, it had a lot to do with, I think, people pleasing. I mean, to be real deal honest about it. And so I really struggled with it. And then I remember so clearly, I was watching this movie. I don't know if you all are familiar with Point of No Return. And it's about Bridget Fonda is in it, and she plays this young woman who always gets into trouble and ended up killing a police officer in a botched up robbery. And she's offered this second chance. She can either be hired by the government to be an assassin or get the death penalty. So, of course, she chose life. And so she's being trained to carry herself in a way that's very polite and kind, but really she's focusing on the target, which usually are some kind of assassinations. And there's this one scene between her and Anne Bancroft. And Anne Bancroft is telling her how to smile and to not be bothered by things or people. And she says, it's just the little things that don't matter. And just to smile and do it very politely. Now, you need to know she's being trained to be an assassin, okay? And she's smiling and she's supposed to carry on this facial expression and say these things that will convince someone that she's all good and she's being very polite and she's not being rude. Well, I know when I saw this movie, it wasn't that. Now, listen, I was planning for no assassinations and I wasn't planning to, kind of try to go to get this second chance or work for the government. It wasn't about that. But what it was that Anne Bancroft was training Bridget Fonda on how you can do whatever it is you're going to do and be polite and um and really not please people all the time, but do what you have to do. And it really was about the way you say it. And, I started practicing that. And I said, well, it's got to be, I've got to be able to balance both things. You've got to be able to speak with clarity and confidence and have your priorities in place and be able to say no and not be rude and polite. And this matters in business situations and when you're dealing with customers. So, why is it then important to know how to nicely say no? Well, one is this: saying no is a way of setting your boundaries and asserting yourself. And it's very important to do that so that you have your priority time. Another reason you want to learn how to say no is that you want to fill up your schedule with your priorities and not other people's priorities. And this is a good way to do it if you learn how to say no. And also, did you ever notice that if you're saying yes all the time, or have you noticed people who say yes all the time? Um, they can sometimes be unreliable because they're telling you or they're saying, I'll do it, or yes, or agreeing to do things all the time. And you can't do, the reality is you can't do everything all the time. So then you're going to slip up on things. And so basically you get seen, or in fact, you're not really reliable. So that is another reason why you want to know how to say no. Oh, so Leah says, Point of No Return is one of my favorite movies. Isn't it great? I love it too. Another reason why we want to learn how to say no is that when we do say no, we more often have more focus because we're carving out time for our own priorities and we can focus more on what's important. So, so again, like I said, I was guilty of not knowing how to say no, and I'm not sure anyone really enjoys it all the time. And being guilty about that is something that you might want to do something about because you want to allow yourself to be yourself. And in order to do it, you've got to really detach yourself from other people's opinions and set these healthy boundaries. But in the meantime, particularly if you're in a professional setting, if you're running a business, you don't want to burn bridges. And so, but you want to be assertive and you want to communicate well. And I just believe that positive, honest communication keeps the door open for future interactions. And so the bottom line is I've practiced for many years and learned various techniques on saying no, and believe that there are ways to reframe your no decision in a polite manner. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop on you 7 ways to say no with a smile, and people are going to love you for it. And so let's get started right away. Okay. So first one is just say it. It's okay that you just say no and you say, no, thank you. Or I'm afraid I can't. It doesn't work for me right now. I'm not comfortable doing that. So, no, I'm not happy doing that. No, thank you. So you can be direct, transparent, and frank and straightforward. There's absolutely no reason. And of course, we do know that there are some very specific situations where you want to be direct and frank and say no. So I want to keep that on the list because that's very important for you to realize that you are your own person and that you have the ability to say no. Okay. All right. A second way to say no is to uh, decline with gratitude. So things like, that sounds so exciting, but I'll have to join you the next time. Thank you for thinking about me, but I won't be able to make it. I appreciate the offer. I'm flattered. I'm honored, but I won't be able to join you. So you see, so you say no, but you let the person really know that you appreciate them thinking about you and you're glad for the honor and that perhaps it sounds like fun, but you just can't do it this time. So that's the decline with gratitude. The third way that you can say no and do it with grace and politely, and people won't feel, really put off, is to offer alternatives to your saying no. For example, you can say, it's a shame I'm busy, but perhaps I can help you later. Or let me think about that and I'll get back to you. Or I can't do that right now, but how does next week work for you? Okay. Or something particularly, you can try with your children is how about you try it on your own first and then I can help you? Okay. Hey, Montez. Oh, thank you, Montez. Montez, thank you for joining us. And listen, Montez or anybody else, please drop, I don't have the, total thing on everything you can say. I know y'all got some great ways that you can say no. Give us some of your wisdom. So drop your tips and comment on it. But this one about offering alternatives, I really think is important. And I want to say again, as thank you, Montez, as you're dealing with other coworkers or even at home, with your children, etc. But someone asks you to come up and do something. Hey, give them an alternative. Again, remember that one? I used to use that with my young people all the time. Why don't you try that first and let me know how it works out, and then maybe I can help you. Okay. Now, the fourth way that, and this is related a little to alternatives, but a little different, is to focus on what you can do and, focus on what you can do. I put the emphasis on the wrong word. It should be on can. So this next one is focus on what you can do. There you go. Okay. So you could say something like, perhaps another time. Let me know what next week looks like for you. Or again, thanks for thinking about me, but I'll take a rain check this time. And then you could say, well, listen, can't do it now, but would you like to meet next Friday? I'm free then. So, in other words, you talk about, you might not be able to do exactly what someone is asking you to, but you're going to share with them what you can do, you know. So, what do you think about that? Again, let me know in the comments if this is helpful, if this wisdom that I'm dropping on you helps. Okay. Now, this next one, there often is the conversation that, well, just say no. Okay. Like we talked about in the beginning, you don't owe any explanation. Sometimes, however, depending who it might be your boss, it might be a family member, you might want to give an explanation. That's okay, but keep it simple and brief. So that's our next way to say a simple explanation. Something like, um, hey, thanks for the offer. I'm going to have to pass. I'm unavailable this weekend. Okay. Um, Also, you could say, I would love to come, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with work right now. Okay. Real deal, simple, I could see saying that perhaps to a family member or, a relative who wants you to come over for a barbecue. And for whatever reason, you don't want to go. I mean, and that's legit that you don't want to go. I mean, you might have something else to do. You might, have other plans. You may not want to go over their house, period, because you just don't want to go over there. So to say, oh, thank you so much for it. I would love to come, but I've just got so much to do. I've already planned my day. Okay. So again, this is a simple explanation. Here's another one. No, sorry. I'm prioritizing being with my family right now. Real deal. And you just say it. And who gonna be mad at you for saying that? And if they is mad at you for saying that, you might want to check out who they are. Okay. But putting it's a simple explanation, but real deal. And here's another one. Now I've done this too. Um, Money's kind of tight right now. Can we do something that's free? Can we take a walk? Or can we see a movie together? Now, yeah. So yes, that's right. Anik, ooh, how do you pronounce your name? How are you? Enrique? Thank you. Acknowledge the offer. Appreciate the thought. Pass. I love it. There you go. There you go. Thank you for dropping that comment in. Again, let's, get all these comments and ways to do that. But again, saying that, given that simple explanation, things are kind of tight right now. And then, putting in that alternative, that's okay too. So then the next category, and this is one that in my later years in being heading up organizations, I reached back into how the groups I used to deal with, the community work I would do as I was working my way through my career. I spent a lot of time working with neighborhood groups and individuals who were really interested in community transformation and working on community problems. And I worked for the United Way, and there were certainly things like if you work for any organization that we just couldn't do. I mean, they just would not do, etc. And so I found myself often in the position where I had to represent the organization and had to say no a lot of times. And one of the things that I started to practice and develop then that I carried through when I became the head of United Way, because not only did it work, but for me, it was authentic, was this way that you can say no by really hearing what someone is asking. So, in other words, think about if you have a customer or a client and, they want you to do something that you really hadn't thought about, or your company really isn't going to do, or you're really just not in the business of doing. that you need to first let people know that you're hearing them. Things like, I understand what you're saying. I hear you. I can understand why you feel that way. And so the thing to do is, before you even say the no, acknowledge that you're hearing what they're asking or saying. And then you can follow that up with, I hear what you're saying. Uh, we aren't really doing that right now, but I appreciate you giving me that feedback. I'm hearing your ideas, and some of them sound really good. We'll have to think about it, but right now we're just not doing that. So in other words, it's important to let people know that you're hearing and understanding them. And so I find, and if you really care about people, then what you're really doing is authentically really listening and understanding. So do that. And let me see, do I have any other? Okay. You can also say, while I hadn't planned on doing that at this time, I really appreciate your feedback. That's another way that you can, again, let people know that you're hearing what they're saying, or, you appreciate what they're saying, but you really, and you love their feedback, but you really ain't going to do it right now. Yes, timing is everything, as Enrique says. Timing is everything. And so, let me see. Oh, you can also say, one of the things that I hear what you're saying, and one of the things that really helps me in my business is hearing from people like you who have ideas and suggestions. So even though we're not able to do that right now, thank you so much for reaching out. Okay? So I think you get the idea with this one. And then the number 7, in terms of the ways that you can say no. And again, this is another one of my favorite ones, is to have a policy. What do you mean, policy? So in other words, thank you so much for the invitation. I have a policy of having every Friday night dinner with my family. Okay. I've even known people, women, who have said when they get hit on the job, who will say, "Thank you. I'm flattered for the attention," or "Thank you for the invite, but I have a policy in not dating coworkers." Okay, so you got policies. I know you got policies. Policies are the standards and the ways and the principles and the way you act and the way you have at your workplace. And we're all familiar with policies at the workplace, but we also have policies in our family life, in our home, and personal policies. Think about those policies, and you can put your policy out there. Okay, and it works. Again, who's going to debate you on your policy? If it's what you believe and this is what works for you. And again, if they do, or if it's going to be debate on it, you need to check them out. Okay. But again, now so those are 7 ways that you can say no with clarity and confidence and not be rude or impolite. But I got a bonus tip, a bonus piece of wisdom for you. And that is to practice saying no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in other words, and this goes back to the movie that goes back to the movie that I was talking about, The Point of No Return, where basically Anne Bancroft was telling Bridget Fonda to practice. That's right. You will always attract what you believe you're worth. Absolutely. And so you can practice what you believe and practice. So you could take some of these phrases that I've given you, because trust, there will come a situation, perhaps today, tomorrow, next week, where somebody's going to ask you something and you will be a little hesitant in saying no when you know you should, when you know it's not your priority, when you know you've got things to do, when you know that you shouldn't be doing that. You will have to say no, but you won't know how. You should say no, but you won't know how. So practice it. What I mean is take a couple of phrases like the ones we've gone over today and think about a particular situation that may arise or a situation that actually happened to you, and perhaps you wanted to handle it differently. And now that you have these phrases, what would you say? And just get a couple of them, like one or two or three, and make them your favorites. And y'all know how to make favorites. You go on TikTok, you scrolling, you see a video you like, you click it, you make it your favorite. Okay. You know how to make favorites. Do the same thing with these phrases so that they become part of what you say. And not only part of what you say, but that you can authentically say this. And that's what I believe this is all about. Because when you're authentic, you're being true to yourself. You are understanding and knowing who you are, what your priorities are, and you're articulating them. And you're able to do that with a grace and a respect and a kindness for people, because oftentimes when people are asking you to do something or invite you somewhere, they want to be with you. I mean, it's a kind gesture. People want to help, people want to be with you in your mix and all that. So it's not about that, this is something negative going on, but you want to respect. And one of the things I say, and I'm going to do a video on this because I've been asked often about this whole concept about people pleasing. And oftentimes we approach it from a negative perspective. Well, it does get negative if everything that you do is to please others, so that your whole life is based upon other people's priorities and what other people think about you. So that can get kind of funky. Okay. But for my people pleasers out there, it means that you got a big heart, that you're kind, that you think about others, that you want to share your grace and your kindness and your thoughtfulness. So be kind to yourself if, in fact, you care about um, being polite, being considerate of others. And so the point of saying no in this is that, in fact, you can do both. You can be true to yourself, authentic, be confident, be clear on your priorities, and know how to say no in the right way. So when combined, these techniques and phrases that I've left with you to do really make your no almost as good as a yes, almost. And it'll also strengthen your personal relationships with customers, as well as your company and with your family and your personal relationships. So I hope this wisdom has been helpful for you. Again, you want to get wisdom, tips, advice on a regular basis, you should be signing up for my weekly newsletter. You get so much good stuff, and and on issues that are important to you, because we're always wanting to hear from you, just like we heard from Kimberly, and that's why we're talking about this subject today. So thank you so much for joining. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me know that you like this video, and I'll see you the next time.
Ignite.